Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast today. I'm once again joined by Knicks Film School's DJ Zullo to tell you why the Knicks still need Julius Randle and how he can be maximized. Plus, are there actually enough minutes for everyone? We get into that next.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, because we are now available on all platforms. So if you want to become an everydayer and you want to be a part of your team every day, be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell to ensure you never miss an episode. And be sure to do the same on your favorite audio podcast platform of choice. Remember to comment, remember to like, remember to leave a 5-star review, all that good stuff. It really helps us grow the show, and I really appreciate it. But who'd be appreciating it? I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. I've been covering the NBA for about a decade now, and I am joined by someone who still knows astronomically more about basketball than me. That is my buddy, DJ Zullo. If you missed part one, certainly check it out. We kind of pick up in the middle of our conversation here. We are discussing Mitchell Robinson, his role as a lob threat, how the Knicks' ability to put more shooting on the floor will open things up for him, before getting into Julius Randle and everything else. Without further ado, let's hit it up with DJ. I think there is a constant fear there of getting fouled, and I do think the types of lineups he's used in will make a big difference, and I'm hoping Tibbs is this is something we talked about after the trade deadline last year, but I really do think, especially without Hartenstein, like it's on Tibbs to be a little bit more creative and maximize lineup usage, because there could be some magic there in getting to Brunson, DiVincenzo, Bridges, Anunoby, and Mitch, where Mitch will play with far and away the most skill, far and away the most spacing he's ever had in his career. And he's never been given the opportunity to be like a true dive big. And Jalen Brunson is maybe not the best point guard to unlock that, but Brunson did get better at that aspect of his game last year. And it does make sense that was going to take some time for Jalen to develop, because in Dallas, he was not the primary point guard. He was not on ball for 36 minutes, seeing different defensive schemes over and over and over again. And the scoring translated right away from him being a number one guy. The being a pick and roll point guard did not, because he really hadn't done that much since college. And even in college, I'm not sure if that was totally always his role. But we saw it last year with Precious, where that was a shockingly dynamic duo at times. When you saw Precious get these rim rattling dunks, and it's this thing that the rest of the NBA has been maximizing and doing for years. And under Tom Thibodeau, and less so Tibbs' fault, but more so just the Knicks roster construction, it felt like this incredible revelation. And then even him and Hartenstein in a different way, more so in terms of leading to short roll playmaking, that was really cool. And I do think there's something to be unlocked there for Mitch. And then on the flip side of that, getting back to Julius, I've been a big advocate since the day this trade was made, that the Knicks' best lineup could be that small ball group of plugging in DiVincenzo for Mitchell Robinson. Anunoby is your defensive center. Julius Randle is your offensive center. And of course, that would unlock him as a rim runner a lot more. And I know Benji's brought up this point that was something that he was really good at in New Orleans. I think in New Orleans, I had the stat right here, 56% of his shots came at the rim. That has never been higher than 46% on the Knicks. Last season, I think it was about 35% for him. So that would be really nice. And that's the tricky part to me with Julius, and how you kind of push him to and it's something he doesn't get enough credit that you brought up on KFS, but the way he's flipped his game over and over and over again to fit how the Knicks have changed and how the Knicks have asked him to play. And he's been willing to do that, and he's fought through it, and it's made him this incredibly versatile offensive weapon. But the real shame of losing Hartenstein, and something that I hope the Knicks can still unlock by going small, is that I thought it was awesome that he leaned into a short mid-range game last year in a way that he never had in his career. 33% of his shots came from short mid-range last season. Previous 2 years before that, it was 22% and 20%. And he was leveraging his physicality. He was leveraging the fact that he's a human tank in a way I've never seen him do on the Knicks. And in a league that fetishizes spacing on a podcast, I'm guilty of it, that fetishizes spacing. I freaking loved that he just became a monster last year. And to your point, Mitch being out there will not allow him to do that as much. And I'm just hoping and praying that Tibbs is willing to put out configurations that let him lean into that a bit. And sure, in the starting lineup, the 3-point volume goes up to maybe approaching the crazy numbers that we got in that 2023 season where there was a stretch where he was leading the NBA in 3-point attempts. But what do you think about him striking that balance? And and do you think it's realistic that Tibbs will go to that small ball group? How do you think that group holds up defensively? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but what are sort of your general thoughts on that?
No, a lot of thoughts on that. And I think, the biggest question mark is what are they going to do between now and the start of the season with the center position, in terms of I assume Mitch will be back, but I think there's maybe a slight question mark there, regarding some of the cap issues and if they want to upgrade or maybe get someone cheaper in there. But assuming Mitch is back, is there going to be another rim protector, Tibbs-esque center that he likes to have that's going to be backing him up? Is that Nick Richards? Is that Kessler? Do they just bring Precious back? I think that will answer some of these questions regarding how the Knicks are going to operate. If we can assume just for a second that they're not going to go the Kessler route, they're not going to go Nick Richards, because it does get complicated in terms of Jeremy over at KFS has been on this about just getting the salaries to work. You don't want to send more money out than or you don't want to take in more money than you're sending out. There's certain areas that are going to make it more complicated. They probably don't want to trade Deuce if they can avoid it. So assuming Precious is back, I think that will answer the question mark regarding, are they going to go small? Because I think you would have to do that, because we had the Bondi report that Tibbs does prefer Precious more as a power forward. I think there's evidence that he can be an effective, backup center, but there are certain matchups where he's just too small to be effective. So we saw I always go back to game 4 against Philadelphia. The last 9 minutes of that game, it was Anunoby, it was Precious, it was Anunoby being, as you suggested, the defensive center. Precious was the 4 basically. Now, where I have my concerns about Julius is, if you remember that game, Precious was started off on Batum, and then they brought Oubre in, and then he was guarding Oubre. And there was a lot of those rotations that were long, hard rotations that Precious was making every single possession that we have never seen Julius make consistently. And I question whether or not he is just equipped mentally, physically to do it. So if you're going to say Precious or OG is going to be your 5 and Julius is going to be your 4, Julius just has to be up to the task. And I'm just not sure if he is. Hopefully he is. I feel physically, there are times when I think he can do those things, but it just requires a lot of effort. And then the part where, is Julius going to be a rim runner as a 5? Certainly the numbers, you talked about it in New Orleans. He was a dynamic rim runner, that has never been part of his game as a Knick. If you watch him when he runs a pick and roll, he's either popping or he's just trying to basically screen his way into a mismatch and post up. DiVincenzo last year, there was 3 or 4 plays early in the year where Julius would set the screen and DiVincenzo would just hit the bounce pass as if Julius was going to roll, and Julius would basically be trying to screen off DiVincenzo's man to try to get a mismatch, and then there would be a turnover. So you saw DiVincenzo sort of working out where Julius likes the ball and whether or not he's going to roll to the rim. So I do wonder at this stage of his career, because that New Orleans season was 4 or 5 years ago now at this point. Physically, is he because these are the things with Julius, physically he could do special things, but mentally, can he just do those things over and over again? And if you're going to have him be basically a rim running center at the 5, how many times does they talk about that with Mitch early in his career, the ability to run to the rim hard, knowing you're going to get maybe 1 out of every 5 passes, or 2 out of 10 are going to come your way. There's going to be the great majority of those rolls to the rim are going to be basically you trying to create that vertical gravity, suck the defense in and work that way. You're not going to get those lobs. So I do question that, but I do have confidence that if it's going to be Precious, that we're at least going to see it. And maybe Julius surprises me. Maybe OG is that dynamic as a rim protecting 5 that could do all these sorts of things, because that is an area where, now that you have Bridges guarding the point of attack, as to me, this is how I would do it. He was in Phoenix. He was always the one guarding the number 1 offensive player, but he would always guard the point guard. He guarded Dame Lillard in a game I broke down. It was December of 21. He guarded Lillard the entire game. That's a tough cover for a guy that's 6'6" with a 7'1" wingspan to be able to navigate all those screens and make things hard on Dame at times and really frustrate him and force him into, I think it was 31 points on 31 shots, like a really solid defensive effort. So now that he's going to be comfortably your number one option against most point of attack scorers, you can now unlock OG Anunoby to be like this, like Ed Reed dominant safety that could do all these certain things as a roamer. To me, that really is going to be like where the Knicks defense goes to another level, because if you watch, I know it's a little bit different, but like some of these great defenses like Porzingis, it's him guarding like the worst wing on the other team and then able to roam a little bit. And I know Anunoby is a different sort of defensive player, but he can have, I think, high level impact when he's guarding a guy that he doesn't have to necessarily worry about so much and try to roam, get into passing lanes, muck things up as a nail defender, rim protect, like do all those things. To me, that's where Anunoby is like goes from a great defender to like the best defender in the NBA at times. Like that's the sort of things that Bridges can do to unlock that, because the Knicks, once they traded Grimes, really didn't have another guy that can consistently guard the point of attack and you feel and where you feel comfortable with it. I know McBride can probably do it most times, but his size is a limiting factor, pardon the pun, that is just something that he has trouble overcoming. So I think Bridges as a guy guarding the Maxis, the Halliburtons of the world, and allow Anunoby to get out of that matchup and just stay on maybe the worst defender and just roam, to me is going to be where the Knicks defense can be really special.
All right, guys, next on Locked On Knicks, we're going to continue talking small ball and why the Knicks will need it to beat the best teams they're going to face in the playoffs, particularly the Boston Celtics. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance: superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Guaranteed Fit. The part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Yeah, I think it's a great call. I want to get into it more in just a sec, but just to wrap up the point on Julius, I guess like that rim running 5 template is maybe my fantasy of how it would look, and just because of, to your point, like his physical abilities, like the profile's there for that to look and be amazing. But even if he wouldn't do, like, let's just say he does what he's always done, which is to your point, popping or just trying to mismatch hunt. Like if you go small ball, like I'm just not even sure if it matters, just because you have so much spacing, so much scoring, so much shooting, so much creation. Like if the result is Julius attacking a smaller guy with four alarm, I'm trying to go the Zach Lowe, 5 alarm shooters like around him, and like Bridges, Anunoby, Brunson, DiVincenzo, like that's okay with, to me, it's almost the same. Like either he's rolling for a dunk or he's bulldozing like a guard to get to the rim. And then if your center is going to help off of Anunoby in the corner, it's going to help off DiVincenzo, he's going to help off Bridges, like 3 of the top 5 corner 3-point shooters in the NBA last season. Like good luck with that. You're going to help off Jalen Brunson. To me, that just feels like an unstoppable offense to me. Like I just don't think there are a lot of clean answers there. And the question mark in that lineup is like, one, how sustainable is it? And I don't think it will ever be a focal point in the regular season, but I'm wondering if you can use it enough to, like, if that is, and I don't know what your perspective on it is, DJ, like to your point, maybe it just depends on what kind of center they trade for. Like if it is your best solution against the Boston Celtics, and to me, like a fully healthy Celtics, like that is probably the lineup I would go with. Yep. And I think your point on Randle is a great one. And that is the weak link. And I wonder if at times, because of it, like you'll take that trade-off and put Precious in there for him, like even to close a game, because the defense is going to be good enough, I think, in that configuration. And the offense with those other 4 guys out there, it almost doesn't matter who the 5th guy is. I think it is a fine line to walk. And the question, like I've been bouncing around my mind, is when I first talked about it, I was like, is that the Knicks death lineup? And I was thinking like, all right, can OG Anunoby be Draymond Green? And Anunoby, like physically, like he's probably 2 inches taller. He's just as strong as Green. And I was like, his arms are not quite as long, but I think only 2 inches shorter. So I was kind of thinking like, all right, what does Anunoby not have that Green does that made him at 6'6" able to like guide one of the better defenses in modern basketball there? And the only thing I could kind of get to is that Green has like generational defensive IQ that we've almost never seen before in the NBA. And there's a reason you could like credibly make the case he's like top 3 smartest defender in NBA history. And I think Anunoby is very good in that capacity. I think to your point, once they took him off Maxey in that Sixers series, we got to see it and the results were mostly spectacular. Like you go back and watch the highlights, like game saving block after game saving block, like contest after contest after contest. But like you are almost asking him for that to work, especially with Randle out there. Like he does have to be generational. And like, do you think he can get to that level? And do you think he can hold up doing that? Because it's something he's never, at least as far as I know, been asked to do in big moments for long stretches in his career.
Yeah, I think as you said, it's a fine line. I don't know if physically you want him doing it for long stretches, especially, I know he had the elbow injury and, you're boxing out guys that are, I know Anunoby is a good 230 pounds, but you're giving up some strength, likely maybe some weight in terms of the matchup. If he's guarding the center, if it's like an Embiid, it's like he's giving up 70 pounds and a guy that's going to maybe be healthier and able to just to push him around a little bit. So I think they would have to be a little bit more, I think, conservative with it, at least early on, and really save that for maybe long stretches in the playoffs. Because if you're playing like you mentioned Boston, that you're right, you're 100% right on that. But like if you're playing the Pacers, you feel, I don't know how they would maybe run the matchup. Maybe you would feel comfortable enough with like Bridges on Turner, and you would feel okay with Anunoby like guarding Siakam, and then you could do certain things there. And I don't know what you would do with, but you can have more versatility in terms of any sort of like stretch 5, and you can maybe have Randle play that matchup and feel okay against a Nevin Turner or against a Miles Turner, because you're not going to really worry about some of the movement shooting and the post up for Turner. You love it if you just try to post up a lot. So I think you'd probably be okay with like Julius guarding him and have like Anunoby, like whoever is like the worst offensive player on that team for that in that lineup, like play that matchup and just have that versatility, because that is where the NBA is going. And that's what Tibbs talked about after they made the Anunoby trade in the first press conference about it's switchable and there's no positions anymore. And I feel like I would have hoped that he saw something last year in the playoffs with Anunoby as a low man defender to where it would make him more willing to go to that. And I think it's just going to be a necessity if Precious is going to be and Jericho are going to be like your backup 5s, basically. I don't think Jericho necessarily is good enough to be a backup 5 right now at the stage. And Precious, from what we can see in the reporting and what we could watch with our own eyes, might not be equipped physically enough to be a true backup center. So you're going to have to at least tap into whether it's Julius or Anunoby as your 5 at times. I would just be cognizant of like Anunoby specifically about wearing him out a little bit and maybe just trying to at least tap into it a little bit in the regular season, but using that as like your playoff, whether it's a death lineup or whatever you want to call it, but like that being your go-to closing lineup in the playoffs with Anunoby playing your 5 as a defender could really work, even if he's like, 80% of what Draymond Green was at his best. I think the Knicks would be in good shape, and it can probably be whether it's your best defensive lineup, can probably be your most versatile and most effective lineup against most NBA teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the point I keep coming back to is I think it's hard to see Mitch surviving against Porzingis. We didn't get a chance to see it last year. I think it's hard to see him surviving against Turner, though that I have a little bit more confidence in. But you need a Mitchell Robinson against Joel Embiid, because I do think there was a reason Tibbs did not go back to that Game 4 configuration, because it worked really well as a curveball, and you saw it points in Game 6, even though Embiid was wiped. Like there were times where he'd go at Anunoby and he would just get a dunk, and it's where Anunoby in his career has been really, really good switching a pick and roll and switching onto a Jokic or switching onto an Embiid. I think asking him to do that over and over again, like there is a point for all of his strength, all of his skill, his wingspan, like everything he brings to the table, where him being 6'8" is just really, really tough against those types of players. Where Mitch like does give you a credible option. It's why you need Mitch healthy, and you need him or someone like him on this team at the end of the day. I do think the only other concern there, like if you don't go to OG in that configuration in the regular season, I just wonder, like I'm really curious to see the Knicks minute totals and like just how they spread it out over the rotation, because I've tried to make a few different mock-ups of what the rotation looks like. And if OG's not playing center, it becomes really hard to get Josh Hart over 25 minutes. It becomes really hard unless unless you're just cutting out Deuce and Dante becomes your backup point guard. It becomes hard to get Dante DiVincenzo over 25 minutes. And that's with playing Mikal like under 35, with playing OG under 35, which with someone in Mikal plays every game.
Where
like,
do you have Randle and Brunson?
Yeah.
You have Randle
I
around
Brunson,
35.
so I can tell you this is what I literally I can maybe put up on the screen in after, but I had Jalen at 36, Deuce at 12, Mikal playing 20 minutes at shooting guard, 13 minutes at small forward, so 33 total for Mikal, Dante 28, all at the 2. I had OG. This is gonna get loopy, but 16 at the 3. 6 at the 4, 10 at the 5. You could spread that out however you want. It's 32 minutes in total. Mikal, I said 13 at the 3, Hart 19 at the 3, 8 at the 4, Randle 34 at the 4, and then the center, Mitch 26, Precious 12, OG 10, and that gets everyone about where you want. But if you just wipe the OG Anunoby 10 minutes off the board and Tibbs is like, nah, that's not how I play, I don't want to do that. It's going to be Mitch for 28 minutes, Precious for 20. It just becomes really hard to play everyone. I do have some optimism, though, that it will be a wrinkle. I know Fred Katz was talking to your guy, John, and he said that was something that Tibbs wanted to do. And with the injuries, like it was just hard to get there. And you know what? That makes total sense to me, because there just was not time at the regular season to really test that. But I almost think it's a necessity, not only to maximize spacing, but just to make sure all these guys are happy, and also making sure you're playing your best players the right amount of minutes. All right, guys, we will return with DJ one final time to finish up talking through the Knicks rotation. Do they actually have enough minutes for everyone? Will people get upset? Is this an argument to not have a true blue backup center and just play OG Anunoby there? We wanted to remind you that this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. So what is BetterHelp? Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. Guys, I've been doing therapy for the bulk of the last decade, and to me, it is super, super important, because that jealousy, that thief of joy, very, very real thing for me. It is so easy. I think particularly professionally, to see where others are at, people your same age, and say, hey, why am I not there? Why don't I deserve that? And therapy helps you put into context, makes you appreciate what you've gotten done. And in turn, like, just shows you those feelings are ultimately kind of non-productive at the end of the day. And the best thing you can do is be happy for other people. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Yeah, I mean, the minutes are interesting, because this might be the year we see Tibbs really. I mean, Randle and Brunson, I think you're right in terms of the minute load. And I don't think we're going to something approaching load management. But where's Deuce in this year?
I do playing 12 minutes a game, which is low for how good he is. But I don't really, without a trade, I don't think him playing more. Yeah.
Yes, that's the. But I know Tibbs loves him, and I just feel like we might be heading towards a situation where the minutes might be across the board lower than we think. Because I think you're right. There wasn't one that you threw out there that I'm like, all right, that doesn't feel right. I feel like all those, from what we know about Tibbs, we know of his history, that to me, that's a reasonable sort of mock-up. I just, in the back of my mind, I'm wondering about, like, all right, Julius is pushing 30. He had the injury last year. I feel like there was with Jalen, a couple foot things that popped up during the season, one in the playoffs, obviously, then the hand thing, a freak injury, but he seemed to wear down a little bit last year. Maybe that was strictly just the stress of like trying to carry an offense basically by himself at times. So I feel
I'm
like
throwing this up now on the screen for people watching.
Yeah.
Sorry, DJ, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I mean, it looks good. I wonder maybe can we get Jalen to 34 minutes to match Randle, and maybe, but again, it might not.
Well, also important caveat with all this. This is if everyone's healthy. Like the average minutes will inevitably be higher because some of these guys will be hurt. And Dante, if Mikhail's hurt, could go from 24 minutes to playing 36 minutes a night for 15 games.
So you're right. It may work itself out. So it's probably not worth stressing over, but Deuce at 12 minutes, it does seem light, but there's just no other. And that's why when we go back to quickly the backup center and like whether or not they decide to they want the 48 minutes, quote unquote, of rim protection. And there really isn't like a clean way to get Deuce 18 minutes, 20 minutes a night, which I think at this stage of his career, he deserves. Is he a guy they consider moving in a trade for a quality center, maybe someone like a Kessler? I don't know. It's a reasonable question. I mean, it's one of those, like, it's like having too many starting pitchers. It's a good problem to have, but it's like, if you have 8 pitchers, say by like June, you probably have 5 because 2 of them got hurt, or like one has an issue, one's not performing well. So it's probably going to work its way out. Knicks certainly deserve some positive injury luck. So we'll see. Maybe this year we can get that off last year, but it'll be interesting. I think this is going to be, it's good. Like I said, it's a good problem to have, but certainly one that Tibbs he hasn't had maybe in his career as a head coach in the NBA in terms of trying to get, 8-9 guys that are really high level NBA players. They're the minutes they probably deserve.
It's going to be a challenge. It is a good one. DJ, I could happily do this with you for 2 or 3 hours. And I'm pretty confident we could keep talking for that long. Sure. You have a loving family to get back to. I'm going to let you do that. But thank you so much for joining me. Before I let you go, can you tell everyone one last time where they can find all your great work?
Yeah. Over at X at DJ Ace NBA. So we're recording this Monday night, Wednesday evening. Benji and I over at KFS will be doing X's and O's show that either live or dropping sometime Wednesday evening. So just be on the lookout for that on the KFS feed. But I'm posting all the time on over on X. So give me a follow over there, and we'll try to figure out this fascinating off season. And we have Summer League around the corner, so we'll have some new tape to break down, which should be pretty exciting. Some rookies to check out for the first time. So it'll be fun. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, DJ. I do think Summer League aside, once we get to the regular season, this is going to be like just strategically probably the most interesting Knicks team we've had in the last 5 to 10 years. And there is no one better than DJ to follow if you want to understand exactly what's happening on a really high level. That's, again, DJ Ace NBA. DJ, thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. We will talk to you very, very soon on Locked On Knicks and, of course, with DJ over on Knicks Film School.